The seventh task, asking the mysteries. After the successful completion of her tasks, Visalia asked the Yaga some good questions. The tasks of this time are these: questioning and trying to learn more about the life, death, life, nature, and how it functions. Visalia asks about the horsemen, learning the truth about being able to understand all the elements of the wild nature. To know too much can make one old too soon. We all begin with the question, what am I really? What is my work here? The Yaga teaches us that we are life, death, life, that this is our cycle. This is our special insight into the deep feminine. When I was a child, one of my aunts told me our family's legend of the watery woman. She said that at the edge of every lake there lived a young woman with old hands. Her first job was to put ilts, what I can only describe to you as souls or soul fire, into dozens of beautiful porcelain ducks. Her second job was to wind the wooden key in the duck's back. When the winding keys ran out and the ducks fell over, their bodies shattered. She was to flap her apron at the souls as they were released and shoo them up into the sky. Her fourth job was to put ilts into more beautiful porcelain ducks, wind their keys, and release them to their lives. The Ut story is one of the clearest about exactly what it is the life, death, life mother does with her time. Psychically, Mother Nyx, Baba Yaga, and the watery woman, La Que Sabe, and wild woman represent different pictures, different ages, moods, and aspects of the wild mother god. The infusion of toots into our own ideas, our own lives, the lives of those we touch, that is our work. The shooing of the soul to its home, that is our work. The releasing of a shower of sparks to fill the day and creating a light so we can find our way through the night, that is our work. Welcome back to Hum to the Brink with Zoe Flowers. And as usual, we are yet again reading from Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype by Clarissa Pincola Estes, PhD. And my goodness, that could not be a more perfect selection. I use bibliomancy, by the way, for folks who don't know, to pick these selected readings. I just tap into the energy of the conversation and open the page. And so, I mean, I just feel like the wild woman archetype, Kaylin, I feel like that's you. The life, the death, the rebirth, the woman, like I'm like, that is just perfect. So there is a line that I love that Kaylin says, and it's we inform the mysteries as much as they inform us. And it captures something profound about how we navigate grief, trauma, transformation, how the universe is constantly shaping us, and how we are constantly in communication with the universe as well. So today I'm joined by another wise visionary and friend, Kaylin Castell, co-founder of Venus Academy, My Star Alchemy, and the former Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. Kaylin's life is dedicated to decoding celestial mysteries and helping people understand that we are a living embodiment of cosmic wonder. So, in this conversation, we're going to talk about astrology. Hopefully, we'll get some shamanic insights. We're going to talk about grief and how we can actually use cosmic guidance to deepen our understanding of our own lives, or as the book talks about, the life, death, life cycle, which I mean, I feel like you and I were talking about this all the time, like whether we're talking about a Nana or so let's just get into it, Kaylin. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, it's so good to be with you again, Zoe.
How
I
are you?
love, I love our conversations. We have so much fun.
Right. And so that particular selection about the life and rebirth cycle, like what do you think about that?
Well, I will say that I think it was when my mother died, um, back in 1998. I was 42. And I was just having this, I was have this revelation that like every breath I took was like a life, death, life process. Like, okay, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing life in, I'm breathing it out. That moment is gone, that moment is dead, that has passed, that is already done. Every moment passes and it's complete. And then we're in the next moment. And so we're constantly in this life, death, life process. And it was so profound for me at the time because I hadn't really thought about it like that before.
Yeah.
And my mom was young when she passed, and I'm now older than she was when she died.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to think about it as like, wow, I'm seeing more days, more years than my mother got to see. And
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm grateful for each and every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your work, for me anyway, sits right at the intersection of astrology and shamanism and personal transformation. And so what's your origin story? Like, how did you get into astrology and this path?
Okay, so first of all, I had a very messy family growing up. They
Mm,
were deeply wounded and very challenged, but they were into spiritual things.
mm,
So I was introduced to the Rosicrucians and Unity Church and Transcendental Meditation, and I did not have, in that sense, a normal upbringing, and I loved it all. I just was so into all of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I got introduced, and I always thought astrology was interesting but too complicated. And people would say, I
Mm,
had a boyfriend when I was in college, and he made me memorize my moon, my rising, my sun, moon, and rising sign, so I could tell people. And actually, I knew all my planets. He made me memorize them all,
really?
tell them, but I had no idea what any of it meant. And so people would ask me, and I'd tell them, and they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah, what does it mean? I don't know. What does it mean?" So I got introduced to a form of astrology called shamanic astrology that was a way of looking at the astrological mysteries completely differently than was being done. This was back in 1990, so 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, in the month of May,
Oh,
35 years
wow.
May.
Huh. Look at us.
Yeah, I know. It's so good.
Wow.
So, and I remember like understanding a little bit of what was being said,
Yeah.
but having this like knowing or this sense inside my being that was like, I have to know this.
Hmm.
And only I wasn't thinking I have to know this so I can be an astrologer because I was not thinking that.
Yeah.
I was a busy mom. I was pregnant with my youngest son, my fourth child. And I had twins that were 5 at the time, and my oldest was about to turn 8. So, you know, I was a
Wow.
busy.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't thinking I was going to be doing this as to be an astrologer, but just that it just seemed so important. Like my whole being was lit up with
Mm,
this sense of
mm,
how this is something that's missing in our in the mysteries in the way that we're living our life. And I mean I've been on a spiritual path my whole life, but
yeah.
this was a whole other level
It was
of
different.
connecting in with like, oh, the sky as above, the earth so below, and that what's in the great above is the same as that's in the great below, and what's in the great below is the same as that's in the great above, in the accomplishment of the miracle of one thing, meaning the two are interacting together. And so when we really start to understand that, it's like we regain our power that was taken from the people so that the people wouldn't know, but wouldn't continue to. It's like somehow it became evil and bad, like astrology. Oh, dismissed, and you could probably get burned at the stake for practicing astrology if you weren't careful way back in the day. Interestingly, the Catholic Church, the dome at St. Peter's Dome, they're tracking they track the spring equinox, and when the sun is in a certain position, it lights up a certain thing on the floor. So they have it like a hole in the dome. It
Right.
lights up a certain like something on the floor, like a symbol or something that's on the floor. And that's when they know it's the spring equinox. And then they know that the full moon, I mean, yeah, the full moon after that point, then they calculate Easter to be the next Sunday after that full moon.
Right.
we're using astrology to figure out when Easter is. So it's really not so bad. But it was a way to disempower people so that they didn't have that connection for themselves. And so I feel what many are doing now, and it's like there's a revolution that's taking place. It's like
Yeah.
everywhere. When I
Yeah.
started doing this back in 1990, it was not the case.
Yeah.
But that everyone's starting to realize. And even if we just know enough to recognize the seasons, the moon phases, the, major planetary alignments and things that are happening, we can work with them because they're telling us that certain things are possible. And we can put our attention and intention in alignment with those times, and then it's like we're taking our power back.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
that relationship with great mystery, so we're informing the mysteries, we're being informed by the mysteries, we're the embodiment of the mysteries live through us, and without us they don't grow and evolve. We're the reason that they get to go through the growth and evolution. And when we can recognize that relationship and really begin to honor that, and ancient cultures honored it. They built standing stone circles. They built pyramids and petroglyph sites and chambered cairns and temple sites that had these alignments with certain star risings, certain seasons of the year. Um, the 19-year lunar standstill. I mean, literally, ancient cultures knew about that, and we're just now remembering and getting it figured out again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
So,
curious about like how you were saying when you first came into the work in the 90s, how different it was. And I definitely want to hear about that. But I'm also interested in the shamanic astrology. Is that what people are mostly using now or
no, and
very
in
different?
fact, the well, I now call it alchemical astrology.
Ah, okay.
Yes,
I
because
like it. I
because
like
I mean
it.
literally the Rosicrucians were all about alchemy. I feel like I was
Mhm.
introduced to alchemy at a very young age, and we do Venus alchemy, which is working with the Venus cycle as a ceremony, as a way to create alchemy in our lives and that sort of thing. So I think astrology and alchemy were very much connected. In fact, it was the ancient alchemists back in the day that worked with certain stars, 15 stars particularly. And so when planets were near those stars, that's when they did their ceremonies. That's when they made their talismans, their elixirs, um,
Mm-mm.
their star shields or whatever it was that they were doing.
Mhm.
Because when a planet was with that star, it would amplify the power of that star. And they really understood that that was the time to do the alchemy. Um,
Mhm.
so their talismans and their, uh, whatever it was that they were creating, they would wait for specific times when, the moon would be with them, Venus, Mars, the planets they could see, usually
Yeah.
Jupiter, Mars, and Venus and Mercury. So they knew. I mean, they were like they had that relationship
Mhm.
with those stars, and so we've lost that. So how do we get that back?
Yeah. And astronomy grew out of this practice as well, that most people, it's not even a practice, it's a lifestyle. It's how people lived.
Right. Yes, and people grew up knowing what they were looking at. They knew the constellations they were seeing at different times of the year. They
Yeah.
knew when planets were moving through those constellations. They had a relationship, and astronomy and astrology wasn't separate. It
Hmm.
was one thing. It was like
Hmm.
your astrological understanding was rooted in the astronomy, but
Hmm.
somehow then they decided to split the two apart or to like see them as two different things. So if we're just looking at the stars, we're just looking at the heavens,
Right.
and then the astrologers, they're just doing whatever they're doing.
Whatever they're doing, some form of witchcraft we're not sure
Yeah,
about, but we know it's
exactly.
not good.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
our days of the week are literally
Named after the planets, yes. One of the things I was just saying to my husband the other day when we were out for a walk is I was born on a Sunday, and I said, I really like being born on the sun's day,
yeah.
the day of the sun. Uh,
Yeah. It's a
Monday,
vibe.
the moon's day, right?
Yeah, it's a vibe. I was
Friday is Venus's day because she's named after Freya, who was also Venus, but
on.
we don't always put those associations together.
Yeah, but I feel like, and I was born on a Friday, by the way.
Freya's Day. Yeah, Venus
Freya's
Day.
Day.
The day of Venus.
Um, I just feel like if we had this information earlier, our whole lives would be different. I mean, you grew up with it, but for people who didn't sort of, grow up in that, I just feel like it would be so empowering. I mean, I can track the more that I started to delve into my chart and really live from it, things really started to shift and change for me. And sort of the maybe the key messages. I don't know if you look at this when you're working with people's charts, like the key
What
messages
we
or
look at as
themes.
intent. What is the intent?
Ah,
Not to predict this is how you're going to be, or this is who you are, this is what you should do, because
uh-huh,
that's limiting. But
uh-huh.
what we're looking at, if we're looking at the archetypal energy or essence of the signs, the seasonal signs, and as they relate to the stars, the constellations, and they're not the same. They're completely different. And in fact, the spring equinox rises in the head of the fish and will for the next few hundred years. The December solstice is on the cross between the Archer and the Scorpion on the galactic cross near galactic center, which it has been since 1926 and will be till 2070 because they move 1 degree, these seasonal points move 1 degree every 72 years. So it takes a long time for it to shift, so we don't necessarily remember. And what happened was a long time ago, they named the constellations and the signs the same name. So the fish, Pisces,
Mm,
the water bear, Aquarius,
mm.
the fish, Capricorn, they named them the same names, forgetting that they move because it takes a long time. It's like 2,000 years that a seasonal sign will be moving through a constellation. And so now we're more than 2,000 years past that time. And so they've shifted a lot. And so, but what happens is that sidereal or Vedic astrologers will say that tropical astrologers don't really know what they're talking about because it's like, oh, Jupiter's not in Gemini because it's not in the twins. It's
Mm-hmm,
currently in the constellation of the Bull,
mm-hmm,
which is also known as Taurus. So they would say that Jupiter's in Taurus, but it's in the seasonal sign of Gemini right before the June solstice when the sun reaches zero Cancer, we have in the northern hemisphere the longest day, the shortest night, and it's opposite in the southern hemisphere. It's a seasonal experience. So the signs represent seasons, and the constellations are the backdrop the seasons move through over 26,000 years. And that's why we have evolution, because there's a constant growing and changing, and the seasonal signs are being informed by the constellations. The constellations are being informed by the seasonal signs, and there's a working together. So how
yeah.
do we bring these things together? Because this is the thing that a lot of astrologers just don't get.
Uh,
Like, oh yeah, well, according to Vedic astrology, I have an Aquarius sun.
mm-hmm,
The sun was in the sign of the water bearer when I
mm-hmm,
was born. But
mm-hmm.
it was the seasonal sign of Pisces just before the spring equinox or the March equinox in the northern hemisphere, it's spring. And so that, it's like, oh, and they assign the meaning of the seasons as the same as the constellations. But the thing is that they're growing and evolving. How
Right,
do we look at that and get that there's this evolution that's been taking place?
right.
Uh, yeah, so one of the things I've had a lot of fun doing in the last few years, we did My Star Alchemy. We did a class on the difference between signs and constellations and where the seasonal signs are now and how they're being informed by those constellations. And so what is what could we imagine is the what they're telling us, the story they're telling us at this time.
Mm,
What's that evolution? But again, we could say it's like astronomy and astrology got split apart.
yeah,
So astronomers think astrologers don't know what they're talking about, but they do agree that the seasonal point, zero Aries, spring or March equinox, zero Cancer, the June solstice, zero Libra is the September equinox, and zero Capricorn is the December solstice.
right.
And astronomers agree with that. But where they're located in the sky is not in the constellations also named the same name. They're in some
Uh-huh.
places different now. And so that's what creates the confusion because they use the same names.
Got it. I feel like that's what that actually, since you broke that down, I'm like, yeah, that that is quite confusing. And
Yeah. So hence why I say water bearer instead of Aquarius, why I say fish instead of Pisces, why I say ram instead of Aries, because those are it's describing the constellation. And the seasonal signs are no longer in those constellations. They have moved.
so when you're talking about the constellations, you call them those things. When you're talking
I call them by
signs,
what, yes.
you call,
Hmm.
I get it. So,
That helps to reduce the confusion because if I say I have a Pisces sun
yeah,
in Aquarius, it's like, what? Wait, what is she saying there? But
yeah,
if I say I have a Pisces sun in the constellation of the water bearer, then it's like, oh, there's two different things going on here. Ah, no wonder I'm a Pisces sun, but I'm also, and water bearer is very much about water. Aquarius is air sign. So
100%.
like, right. And so people think of Aquarius as a certain way, but the
Yeah.
water bearer has a whole other way we could look at it. I mean, I think of the water bearer as representing Kuan Yin or
Mm,
in the tarot cards, the
star.
pouring the water on the ground, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
The
star card.
water bearer pouring the water out. So
Or temperance.
blessing, and that whole area of the sky is water.
Yeah.
There's the fish next to it. There's the sea goat on the other side of that, and there's Cetus the whale, and there's Pisces astrinish, which is the southern fish. So which is not on the zodiacal band where the sun moves through. But anyway, and
Yeah.
there's a dolphin in that part of the sky. A lot of water.
So for people who might not be familiar with astrology or they're familiar with sort of I read my horoscope once a week or maybe like you and I were talking about like in the 90s I read Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, which was kind of like the book at that time, right? Um how would you sort of drill down what astrology is even more? Like how would you explain that to just like a totally like lay person?
So if we think about how we're standing here on Earth, and we
Mm,
have experiences of seasons. So we
mm,
have spring, we have fall, we have winter, we have summer, and
mm,
then we have the cross quarter, the halfway points between all of that. And so we have these seasonal experiences. Then we could say that's the energy of the season. Well, I call them the seasonal signs.
mm.
And but we stand on Earth and we look out into the sky.
Mhm,
And literally, the stars are talking to us if
mm,
we're open to listening.
mhm,
But we got tuned out,
mhm,
purposely tuned out.
mhm,
I read this recently. There was a archaeologist who was in Africa with this tribe in Africa, and they were asking him about hearing the stars, and he goes, "I don't hear the stars." And they said, "Really? You don't hear the stars? How are you alive?"
mm.
Like for them, they just hear the stars. It's like the guiding wisdom of the stars is there for them all the time. So I feel that what we would need to get back is our ability to hear the stars, to hear the planets, to get what's going on in the cosmos and how that's helping to inform us now. So going out and sitting out under the sky, being with the full moon and the new moon, or well, the crescent moon, because you can't see the full new moon. But many cultures celebrated the new moon with the first visibility of the crescent moon,
Yeah.
not at when the sun and moon were conjunct. And so that would be considered the new moon. And many cultures did their big ceremonies for the collective when you could see the moon in the sky, that little sliver of the moon in the sky. So how I guess it's but some people may not desire it, but hey, here's the thing. In ancient times, people didn't watch TV.
They watch the stars.
They watched the stars. They sat outside, they sat under the sky, they had a profound relationship, is why they built those standing stone circles and those, um, with all these different astronomical alignments. I've been to petroglyph sites that certain petroglyphs light up in different seasons. And then they would know when it was time to do certain ceremonies based on what part of the panel of petroglyphs was being lit up by the sun.
Mm,
Like this is how connected they were and were not.
yeah, absolutely. So bringing it to sort of us in modern times. So like I said, the more I learned my chart, the more I felt like that I wasn't some crazy flighty artist. Like it was very clear the major themes of my life. I was able to sort of see that through astrology. Um, I wonder about, since this is a conversation about grief, how do you see, like how can astrology sort of help people to move through grief or provide insight into cycles of loss and healing?
A couple of things. One is that when we look at the natal chart, we're looking at the blueprint or intent,
Hmm.
why a person came, what they came to learn about, what they came to investigate, what they came to explore, and to help evolve. And so we look at that as the intent. It doesn't mean you have to do it this way or that way because everything's evolving.
Right.
So sometimes we could look at and imagine that some people really are here to go through the deep feeling realm,
Mm.
experience something deeply profound and through grief, through all the feelings, not just grief, but we're so also not encouraged to grieve.
Grief avoidant,
Yes.
which is why so many people keep saying, yeah, I'll come on the podcast. I'll talk about grief. I've been wanting to talk about this for years. Nobody
Right.
asked me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And so we're not given permission
at
to
all.
really grieve. Now, there are certain cycles that people go through, and we call them initiatory cycles.
Mm,
So we could say Pluto is definitely a cycle where you might experience the death of the life as you knew it. Doesn't mean you
mm,
died. It just means that your life as you knew it died, and you need
mhm,
to grieve that. Or
mhm,
you actually experienced the death of someone you loved deeply and cared about,
mhm,
parent or a partner or whatever it might be,
mhm,
friend. And that is the catalyst for you to then feel what you feel. And
mhm.
what and because we've lived in a culture that basically says you can feel happy, men can feel angry,
That's right. Or sexual. Those are the
right?
two emotions,
Yep, yep,
sexual
yep,
or
yep,
angry.
right.
That's it.
Other feelings are just haven't been welcomed and haven't been supported,
Yeah.
and we don't really know what to do with them. So ain't I got the opportunity to do a grief ceremony with a woman named Sabanfu Somé from the Dagara tribe in Africa, and her elder sent her with her husband, Malidoma Somé, and they taught together for a long time, and then they kind of went off and did their own thing. She came to Tucson and did a grief ceremony, and I mean, this was something they do in their tribe monthly. This was like for me a once in a lifetime thing. So, but
Very much.
but the power of the group and the intention and setting up the ceremony and having the altars and having, like a ceremony that you could go through, it was transformative. And I found myself feeling a rush of life force energy. And I allowed myself to howl and keen and
Mm,
not just cry at the altar. Some people were just like quietly crying at the altar, like afraid to really let it go. And I was just like, yeah, I'm letting it go.
yeah.
Not one to do that. It's not something that is easy for me to do because, but I really did. And then this just rush of energy came through my body. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is why we allow ourselves to grieve so that we can release this energy
Yes.
just so stuck in our physical being. And
Yes.
oftentimes after like sobbing and crying, you can feel kind of headachy and,
Yeah.
tired and whatever. I felt so alive and energized. And I talked to Sabanfu after the ceremony, and I just thanked her so much for bringing it and for doing what she did. And we had this little exchange. It was very fun. And I think about the importance of how can we bring this back?
Yeah.
I'm not trained in it. I don't really know. I have a friend who has been trained by Malidoma,
Mm-hmm.
actually, on
Mm-hmm.
how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking at how to help create these ceremonies for people
Yeah.
um, that want to do it because there's something about the power of the group. And we did one online last year.
Mhm.
And it was amazing. It was so amazing. And the magic and synchronicities that happened, even though people were going off and doing their own thing while, we'd like meet in the morning and then we go do our ceremony and we come back and meet again online. But I was like, things happened that I was so astounded by
Yeah. Yeah. When
that.
When we did our retreats in Ecuador, we would take people to the ocean. So we had a day of grieving the sacred divine, feminine, and then we had a day to grieve the sacred, the divine masculine, and which I think the first time, yeah, the first time we did it, it was on a Sunday and it was Father's Day, and so we had, women identified people in the sea, screaming, crying, wailing. And it was like, yeah, this is what we need to be doing, especially coming out of like the year, at least in the state, and not even in the States. Like we came out of a global pandemic, and I had been saying grief ritual. We need a global grief ritual. And it was like, nope, back to work.
Yep.
You had your time off, you made your banana bread, back, back, back to
But
business as usual,
yes,
right?
and the doing it in a group.
Yeah, we should
That's
have
the
been
you
doing it
can grieve on your
together.
own. I have done my own
Yeah.
grieving. I mean, you can, and there's something to be said for that.
Yes. Yes.
But doing it in a group is a
Yes.
whole other story.
Yes.
It's so much more powerful. The group intention, the powerful field of safety that is created where you
Yes.
can feel safe to just, be crazy.
And the bearing witness to
Yeah, and being bare and
people,
that piece, yes.
right?
One of the reasons I was able to do what I did in the grief ceremony was because Sabanfu told people to go with someone to the grief altar and they would stand behind and hold
Yeah.
space. Well, I asked a friend of mine to hold me.
Yeah.
I said, "Will you please hold me because then I'll know I can do this."
Yeah.
And she did, and we just kind of rocked and howled, and I
Yes.
she wasn't, but she was just holding me,
Yeah.
and it made all the difference because I felt so safe.
Absolutely. I can't remember if we sent people out in twos. We might have, but I just remember there was just a sea of people just, you know,
Yeah,
releasing,
yeah.
being releasing. And
And to be witnessed and to be and see that you're okay. And in fact, not only are you okay, you probably feel better.
absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. So
Yeah.
are there particular astrological cycles that can help like that helped you through grief or
I,
challenging
Pluto cycles are really good for giving yourself
Pluto?
permission to grieve.
Oh,
And
Pluto's.
also Chiron, because
Oh,
Chiron is the shamanic healer, also known as the wounded healer. But what are
yeah.
our wounds and what are we grieving around the wounds that we've experienced? And so Chiron cycles are very powerful for that. Saturn can also be because it can be so challenging.
Lord knows. You know I got that
Yes.
Capricorn rising, honey. You know. Woo!
Yes, yes. And sometimes we have to let go of an old structure when we're in
Mm,
so that we can so it's like tearing down the old building so you can build a
mm.
new, but maybe that old building had a lot of meaning. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it had served a great purpose for generations and now it's being torn down so something new can be built and we need to grieve that. There's so many different ways that that could happen. I think any time honestly is a good time,
Yes.
but definitely if you are in a Pluto cycle or a
Yeah.
Chiron cycle or a Saturn cycle, and
Mm,
there's things coming up for you, give yourself permission to grieve. And
yeah.
if you find somebody to support you in that, or you can find, I don't know, I think there's more grief ceremonies happening these
Yeah.
days.
I think
These
so.
online that you can find.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
but or create your own.
Or create your own.
I people.
So I want to talk about this because you are always so great about reframing things. So as you were talking about Saturn, and I was like, oof, Saturn, oof, it's been rough, which Saturn has. We're not going to pretend like it hasn't. However, I'm so grateful for Saturn and the lessons that you like being a Saturn heavy person. Yeah, I think that it's just that structure, that foundation of Saturn. So I wonder if you could talk about sort of the misconceptions around like, oh, it's Mercury retrograde. You better not do anything. It's an eclipse. You better not do ritual. Like you're really good at like reframing how we look at the planets and the signs. So I wonder if you could like just offer your like whatever you want to say about that.
Okay, well, I'll reframe Saturn right away because
Okay.
I feel like that Saturn was co-opted by the patriarchy, dominator culture. and became the image of a god in the sky who's keeping notes and keeping track. And if you don't do the right thing, you're going to get punished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A planet of no. Now I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
start changing how I talk about Saturn. Thanks, Kayla.
I like to think of Saturn as feminine because she most resonates with Capricorn, and that is a feminine sign. Capricorn. And Capricorn has also been like, we could say the shadow side of Capricorn,
Yeah.
work hard
Yes.
and all the rules and all this stuff, and which is also very Saturn. But that's not the essence of Capricorn. Capricorn is about how do we create a structure that's sustainable, that requires very little work to sustain it.
No.
Right. We've been conditioned to believe that we have to keep working hard no matter what. And I actually call it the doing addiction because we've been so, it's like we're constantly trying to prove ourselves to some outside authority, whether that's God or our parents or whoever it might be, to a boss, that we're worthy. And that isn't the essence of Saturn. Saturn's just like, I'm here to hold the structure that is whatever you want to create. And so as a culture, we've created this structure that is more about this uh, like if you're not living a good life, it's because you have bad karma. You've done bad things in the past and you're being punished. And I often would say when I was a kid or even in my young adult years, I would say, why does God hate me? Because I was like, I'm doing everything right. Why is this so hard? And we could imagine that Saturn is about helping us to get aligned with the structure that helps us to
Mm.
fulfill our life intent, our soul's purpose, why we came to be here. And when we can let go of all of those judgments, the judgments of Saturn,
Mm.
the judgments of an external God that is like if you don't do the right thing, you're going to burn in hell forever,
Mm-hmm.
getting past all that. And even if we don't believe that, sometimes we can still be at the effect of it. Because I would notice, I'd be like, oh, I think I'm still at the effect of that, even though I know that that's not true. So it can take a while for us to
Mm-hmm.
move past that. And that's okay. And not to beat ourselves up or judge ourselves for that either, because
Mm-hmm.
that's not helpful. So the opportunity with Saturn is to recognize that if we're really attuned to what Saturn is doing, we
Mm-hmm.
recognize that it's helping us to create structures that are sustainable, that will get the best results for the least amount of effort, and that we can spend the rest of our time playing.
This is so yes, this is so accurate because and it's so me because when I was planning my mom's funeral, I just like did everything in like 2 days because I knew that I wanted to rest for like a week. And so I was on the phone with my cousin and she was like, "Wow, you're really like doing a lot." And I'm like, "Yeah, because I don't want to be doing it all at the end. I want to be able to like have dinner with my friends, which I was able to do the night before the funeral. It's like I did all the things that I had to do so yeah, so that I could just like play.
Yes, I love it.
Wow, I just never, but it took me a while to get there though. This is
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
years.
It takes and like I had this insight when my kids were little. They were watching the movie Fantasia.
Mm,
And the nature fairies are changing the seasons, and Vivaldi's Four Seasons is on, and there, it's spring becoming summer and fall and winter and back to spring, and I'm watching them dancing
hmm
as they're changing the seasons and
hmm
playing and having so much fun. And I thought, that's Capricorn and that's Saturn.
Wow.
How do we do it and have fun and play at the same
Wow.
and get the job done?
Yeah, yeah. Because, and that's the thing I've started to say as I've gotten much older. It's like once you sort of create the structure, then you can figure out to play how to play inside the structure. But you have to have the things in order first before you feel the freedom to do that.
Now, something else about Saturn cycles that people,
Hmm
or if you have strong Saturn on your chart,
hmm
um, the challenge is getting over the judgments
Yeah. Good
that maybe
luck.
you experienced as a child and,
Yes.
or as your teachers or your
Yes.
mentors or whoever being very punishing and judgmental.
All of the above, listeners.
Yes. Right. Um, and begin to recognize that we have the opportunity to create a new way of doing this. And this is not the essence of Saturn. This is just what we got handed. And now it's our job to create something new. And in Saturn cycles, they happen at like certain growth points, like every 7 years or so, we go through a Saturn cycle, age 7, age 14, age uh, 28, well, closer to 30, but it's not exact 7 years.
Hmm.
Um, and that we're growing and evolving. We're not the same at age 7 as we are at age 30. We're
Yeah.
not, we've grown and evolved. And so thinking about the snake shedding its skin,
Hmm.
the snake sheds its skin because it's outgrown its old skin, not because the skin was bad.
Hmm.
It served its purpose. It was a good thing. Well, but then it outgrew it, so it needs to shed that old skin, and it's work. It is work for a snake to shed its skin, and it's grumpy while it's doing it.
Well, and I feel like that brings us back around to this grief conversation when I think about people and their Saturn return. And so, if people are listening to this who are experiencing that, this is an invitation to sort of reframe how people think about, because again, it's just like a negative sort of
Right.
slant to everything. Oh,
Yeah.
everything is falling down because I'm in my Saturn return. No, you're shedding,
You're
what does it,
setting the old so you
you're
can move
shedding
into
the
the new.
old. Yeah.
Yeah. And in, like in India, they would look at that first Saturn return as the reaching true adulthood or maturity.
Mm-hmm.
That you've gone through all the other, as the student, you've been a student up until that point. Now you're ready to enter the phase of life when you're um, going to step in and take responsibility and do whatever. Now, we don't quite do it that way in our culture.
No, because we don't want to get old either. That's another thing,
That's true.
right? So why would you celebrate being an adult? People are like,
Right. Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of reframing
Yes,
and ritual
absolutely.
around these sort of
Yes.
around to prepare yourself for this Saturn return. All of
So my first Saturn return, um, 2 days before, 2 days after my 29th birthday, I had twins. I
it.
had a 2-year-old and then I had twins. And
Mhm,
that was a lot of work.
mhm,
Talk about Saturn. I was like, people say to me now, how do you accomplish so much? And I'm like, yeah, I had three under three. So I was like, I had to learn how to get a lot done very efficiently and effectively. That's the
mhm.
gift that I was given,
Yeah.
that. And then once you're efficient at what you're doing and you're effective at what you're doing, then you're not like spinning your wheels or feeling like you have to go back and redo or something like that. So that's really what Saturn's here to help us with.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. And so for folks who have never gotten your chart, there's lots of different ways you can get your chart. So you can actually find what your Saturn placements are and all of your placements. And of course, Kaylin will give you her information at the end of the conversation. So you can also just, are you doing personal readings for
Oh
people?
yeah, I still do
Yes.
them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can reach out to Kaylin too to help you with that. Um, so I wonder about the people that you've been reading with, and what do you think sort of the deepest value is for astrology, for like for when you're navigating life's changes?
Depending on, how the chart's being read, but I feel
Yeah.
like the way that I was taught to do it, it's giving permission to people to be who they are. A lot of times they feel like they should be, it's like they have this longing in their heart and their
Yeah.
soul to be a certain way, to do certain things and to express in certain ways, but that they don't feel like they can because they're supposed to be this way, or the parents
Mm-hmm.
culture or people are pushing them in a different direction. And so
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes it feels very validating to have someone say, "Yeah, yeah, you're actually here for this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong. You're right about what this is for you. But if you don't give yourself permission to go in that direction, you're never going to be fulfilled or happy ultimately."
Yeah, I can't stress enough how important it is to really dig into your chart because you are absolutely right. It's really like a map
Yeah.
of our
I like to call
soul.
it a soul map. It's
It
our soul.
is.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, our soul had a purpose and a reason for coming.
Yeah.
What And how can we give ourselves permission to follow that path? And it doesn't mean we'll get it instantly right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's lots of phases of the journey that we go through. But
Mm-hmm.
um, but I have to say, once I once I understood and I felt like I had been given permission, um, it was like, oh, this makes just so much sense. I
100%.
get it. I just get why I'm here now, and I get that this is my journey. And I've had some cycles that were really difficult and challenging since
Yeah.
I knew that, and I still had to go through those cycles and let go of things that were in the way.
Yeah. Oh.
Because any outer planet cycle we go through, whether it's Pluto, Chiron, Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, any of those, they are here to help us get back on track with where our soul most wants to go. And if we're resisting, if we're if we're trying to not go in that direction, or we're trying to hang on to something that we need to let go of, it's just more and more difficult. But as soon as you let it go, and then it's like, oh, and then doors start opening and everything happens. And I've had this happen to me actually somewhat recently where I had to let go of something. And as soon as I did, and it was like, wait a second, I'm in a political cycle, I have to let this go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was I was resisting for a while, and then I was like, wait, I gotta let this go. And as soon as I did, all these doors started opening. I was like, oh God. See, even astrologers have to go through
Yeah.
these things. And
Yeah.
sometimes I
No,
had
and
to,
you had to remind yourself.
yeah, I had to remind myself.
Because you don't do predictive. I know you don't do like like you said, you started out the conversation saying that. However, if you're familiar with your chart, you can sort of plan, quote unquote, for mishaps. You kind of have like I know when I got a reading in the at the end of 2023, and she had said 2024 you're going to have a lot of responsibilities for the family. And I instantly was like, no, I don't want that. I want to get back out and be an artist and like flip flop around the world. Well, sure enough, 2 months later, mom's diagnosed with cancer. I was like, there it was.
Yeah.
It was like
And really,
right
how
there
can
in the
you say
chart.
no to that?
You said what?
You can't say no to that. It's your
Nah, you
mom.
can't. You can't say no, but it was right. And I immediately thought back. I was like, oh, that was in that reading that there was going to be more responsibilities around the home.
But it didn't say what the responsibility
It
would be.
didn't, but I knew it was going to be hard.
Yes.
I knew when I heard it, I was like, no, maybe I'm
Right.
selling a house. No. Right?
Yeah.
So we can see it, but again, we're human, so we don't always
And we can have
do that.
sometimes imagine what it might be, but it can sometimes turn out to be something completely different.
Yeah.
So it's not, we can't predict necessarily what it's going to be,
Yeah.
but but sometimes we have a sense of what it can be, and then it turns out to be right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so when you think about, when people come to you, I know right now a lot of people are doing like the big three and sort of the North Node and the South Node, as an entry point for people into the astrology conversation. Do you feel like people should, because it's so complicated, there's so much to learn. Um, do you feel like that's a good starting place for people, or do you feel like
I
they
think
come,
it's
they get
better
the
to
full chart?
simplify it further, honestly. I
Oh,
mean, like
really?
if you look at the chart as a statement of intention, why the soul is here and what it wants to learn about. And you can do it in a somewhat simple way, like um, the moon representing the skill set you're bringing into this life and the specialty, the expertise that you have already, which is so amazing. And some people will feel a strong connection to that. And some people won't feel any connection to that, depending on the family situation and the culture they are in.
Um,
And I will just tell you, all the women I know with Cancer moons
yeah.
tend to be overgivers, and sometimes so much so they give themselves into a autoimmune disorder or some kind of health episode because now they have to learn to take care of themselves. I see
Mm.
this over and over and over again, and then there's, like the Aries moons, it's like, I want to just go do what I want to do. Don't tell me what to do. And as women in a culture, now this is changing quite a lot, but my mother was an Aries moon and she never really got to do what she wanted to. And I
Yeah.
think why she exited it early out of her life because she just couldn't do what she wanted to do. So no, so understanding that can be so helpful. to people, and to give them it's like you don't want to overdo the moon, but you also recognize that it's your the skill set or the expertise that you have that can help you achieve what it is you came to do. But if all you did was that, then you're not going into the new territory. So I
Mm.
that's just such a good way to start understanding. And then looking
Mhm.
at for women their Venus position
I knew
and
you
men
were going
their
to say
Mars position,
yes.
but as to what is the intended expression of the feminine for the women through their Venus and the intended expression of the masculine through Mars through for men through their Mars, and then giving yourself permission to do that. And I will say I'm Venus in Aries and I'm a Pisces Sun, and I also have Neptune opposite my Venus, so she got watered down in my early life because you'd think Venus in Aries would be fierce
Yeah.
and she could, you couldn't tell her what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because I was so attuned to everybody else's feelings, having empathy and compassion, and not, I never stood for myself. I could stand for everybody else, but never for myself. And that really, I just was something I had Pluto squaring my moon a few years ago, and that was when I was in that Pluto cycle I was talking about. And
Hmm.
that's when I was like, oh wait, I have to stand up for me. I
Mm.
can't be continually just saying okay to whatever is happening. And I stepped into, I think, my Aries for the first time in the strong way for myself,
Yeah.
not for everybody else.
Yeah.
And what I thought I should be doing or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I get
yeah,
that.
so those are the kinds of things that we can get insight and information about. So just knowing that, and the ascendant, what's rising is the mystery school of current life intent. So whatever is rising at the time that you're born is the new mystery school. Now, sometimes people have moon and rising in the same sign, so
Hmm.
that it's like they have an expertise in that energy. My twins are Virgo moon and Virgo rising.
Hmm.
They have an
Mm.
expertise, but they're taking it to a new level. It's like helping it to evolve into a whole.
Oh.
What does that mean? How is that going to manifest? How is that showing up? And if they just get stuck in the old way of doing it, that's not going to be helpful. So they chose me for a mom, and I encourage them to do it a new way.
Yeah. Right. That is so interesting. So the intent, the mystery. Can you say that again with the rising?
So the rising sign is the new mystery school for personal identity or personal sense of self, what you're here to learn about in you, inside of you. So, for example, I'm Scorpio rising, and I'm a Sagittarius moon. So from the perspective of my moon, going into the feeling realm isn't exciting. It's about expanding consciousness and being on a spiritual path and all of that. That's what my moon loves,
Mm.
to go into the feeling realm, to
Mm.
really feel, to go into the places of where you are aligning your will with divine will, so you can manifest and create anything that is going to do no harm to others, but but is something that lights you up and gets you excited and have a lot of passion for. And
Mhm.
so, giving yourself permission to go with what feels passionate and alive.
Mm.
That's a big piece, and that's a big important part of it. And I will say in my transcendental meditation days, I felt like there were way too many rules
Mm.
about what you had to do to get enlightened.
Mhm. Well, that would make sense with a Sag moon.
Right?
Yeah, of
And it
course.
was like I kind of went along with it a little bit, sort of, and then finally I was like, yeah, this is not the way that it's going to work for me.
Yeah. Ah,
So I gave myself permission to find what lit me up and got me excited
yeah.
and follow that path instead of the, the other path that I had been on. So
Yeah, it really is a ticket to freedom. It really is a ticket to like a pathway to liberation. Like because it really is like, yeah, you might want to go this way. You might want to, like you said, follow what lights you up and see where that takes you rather than what society is saying. Because you are so right. Like many of us know when we're in a job that doesn't suit us. We know when we're in a relationship that doesn't suit us, right? But we're so tapped into sort of should what we should do and this and that.
yeah.
But the astrology is like, no, hey, your soul kind of, but this is kind of really why you're here. And if you follow it,
Right.
it'll probably be okay.
Magic starts to happen.
Yeah, it'll
I remember
probably
when I
be
started
okay.
to align with all of this,
Mhm.
I had recently, this was back in 1990, so I think that maybe the year before, I had been reading Lynn Andrews' book, Medicine Woman,
Mhm.
and I got done with that book and I was like, I want to live a magical life.
Yes.
Then this came into my world and the magic started happening in so many ways.
Yeah.
And yes, I still had hard things to go through.
Of
And yes, it wasn't
course.
always easy or fun.
Yeah.
And yes, sometimes I was like, what the hell?
Yes.
For the most part, and I can look back now, 35 years later, and I live a magical life. I
Yeah,
am
you do.
happier than I've ever. Oh, thank you.
Caitlin lives a magical life. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it didn't happen overnight,
Right.
but I've been on the path for a while and having this understanding and I had to let go of a relationship in order to get into the relationship I am in now. And I would, it's not always easy journey.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, it's not go to the store, buy the
But
crystal.
when we let go and we trust and we allow and we recognize, oh, I'm in a Pluto cycle, I need to let go of this marriage, or I need to let go of this job, or I need to let go of whatever it might be, this lifestyle.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
really not serving me, and I need to get into a healthier lifestyle, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because Pluto cycles are about letting go, allowing something to die or to leave or to be done or be completed.
Mm.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
it got me to, and both times I went through a Pluto cycle at the end of a marriage.
Hmm.
On the other side, my life was so much better. But I fought it because I didn't know the first time. I fought it. I was trying to hang on like, oh, I made these vows and I have these children and I'm trying to make this work. And then when I finally got to the place where I recognized that no matter what I did, it was never going to work, and I let it go, then everything just was like, I felt completely different. I
No
was like,
matter.
oh, now life is, that's also around the time I was saying I want to live a magical life, and suddenly my life got magical. Yeah.
Because you make the proclamation, so now you got to do the thing.
Yeah. And anything in the way of it has to be
Has
cleared,
to go.
and so you can live it. So then there's sometimes often a lot that you have to let go of in order for the space to be created so that you can live the life that you came to live.
Yeah. And then hopefully find a community that you can grieve your old that
Yes.
letting go with as you're
Yes.
sort of rebirthing yourself. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Ah,
beautifully said. I love how you said that.
I love it. I love the conversation. We could just go and go and go.
I know.
So, is there anything that you want sort of to leave this iteration of the conversation with, like something that you feel like you want folks to know that you may not have already said?
Well, I guess the most important thing for people is to make the choices that feel most alive and aligned for them. And
Mm,
it can help to know why your soul came and why you're here. It helps to know.
yeah.
It also helps to know what cycles you're in, because sometimes you're in cycles that are it's going to take a while for, even if you just want to dismantle everything and create
Mm,
something, it might take a while. It's like, and to
true.
know that it's okay, and to know that you're on track. And I mean, I was in a Pluto cycle, a Saturn cycle, I guess. I was in my second Saturn return some years ago, and I was going through a lot of Saturn because I have Saturn just goes and hits one thing and one thing after another. For 7 years, I was in Saturn. I was like
Yeah.
the third year into it, and I was like, universe, please, can you send me a sign that lets me know I'm on the right track with this
Yeah.
cycle? Because I felt like I was just so stuck.
Yes.
And I go for a hike and I find a snake skin. And I was like, thank you for the sign,
Mm,
because talk about Saturn being like the snake shedding its skin. And I was like, I picked up that snake skin and I flew down the mountain and I put it on my altar and it's still there.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. It just goes on. I mean, I know Saturn was in my financial. Oh, for years. I mean, I was just like, oh my goodness, girl, when are you going to back up off of me? Like, and then when she finally transited, and then I think she went into she left my financial, and I think she went into my romance. I was like, thanks, girl. But still, like at least you're off of the wallet. Like, but it
Right.
was just like grinding, grinding. And like
But
you feel like you're
oftentimes, yes,
sludging
yes,
through
it
it.
can feel that. That's like it's work to release the old. It's
Yeah.
work. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily, but when you get there,
That's
then
right.
it's like, oh, I'm
That's
here.
right.
I made it. I got to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
how beautiful it is. Everything's so beautiful and alive and
Yeah.
beautiful. Ah.
Yeah. But you got to climb it.
Right. Yep.
It's
You
like
got to
that
climb.
sea
You
goat.
got to
You
put
got
the
to
work in
climb
to
it.
get there.
Yeah. You got to do it. So,
Yep.
how can people get in touch with you and
So, I do have a YouTube channel, where I release videos. In fact, you have been on my YouTube channel.
how we met?
That's how we met.
Hmm.
Exactly. And at Kaylin Castell, I think is what it is.
Okay.
You probably search for that and then you can find it. And then I have a website, kaylincastell.com. Also, or celestialtimings.com. Both take you to the same website.
Okay. Okay.
And so that's probably the easiest
Okay.
ways.
Do you have
Um,
any schools or courses coming up? I know you're
Uh,
also
so
doing
the-
some.
Venus
Uh,
alchemy, it just started a new Venus cycle.
hmm.
And this is the most wild Venus cycle I have ever seen. All the things that are going on with it that align with all the other things that are going on that are so wild in this. So maybe sometime we can talk about that. But just quickly, there's this Aries Pisces dance that's been happening. Neptune just moved into the Aries for the first time in 165 years, 4 years, something like
When
that.
was that? Because I haven't been tracking as much
March
as I.
30th.
Oh,
March
okay. So a
30th.
couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, a
Yeah, it
while.
goes back
Oh,
into Pisces, back into Aries, and then Saturn and Neptune conjunct for the first time at 0 degrees Aries in thousands of years.
wow.
0 degrees Aries point is considered the alpha point, the beginning point of the astrological signs.
Mm-hmm.
And 29 Pisces is the omega point. So we have this dance between the alpha omega point. The
Mm-hmm.
Venus and Mars retrogrades were over this point 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Saturn's going into Aries for the first time on May 24th
Mm-hmm.
in 30 years, or almost 30 years, except 1997, I guess. Maybe it's more like 28 years, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, and then they catch up, Neptune and Saturn catch up together. Now they catch up every 37 years, but not always in Pisces. It's a long time since, I mean, not Pisces, Aries. Been a
Okay.
long time since they caught up together in Aries, because it's been a long time since Neptune's. It was like 1860
Wow.
something, and it
So
was in
1997 was the last time
I think it was 1997 the
around
last
there.
somewhere in there. Yeah,
So,
that Saturn went into Aries, but Neptune went into Aries in 1862. I think was the first time it went into Aries. So it was the last time it first.
wow.
I know. It's so amazing. So all these things are happening. Well, this Venus cycle we usually start the Venus cycle when she's visible because that's how the ancient cultures did it.
Yeah.
Some started with the conjunction to the sun, but this time she was conjunct the sun in Aries and visible to some within the next couple of days in Aries, but not visible to others until she was in Pisces. And so we were thinking, oh my gosh, she's an Aries Pisces goddess. And so we're doing this journey as a ceremonial journey. You don't have to know anything about astrology really to be able to be part of the ceremonial aspect of this Venus cycle that lasts 19 months. And it follows the story of Inanna's descent into
Mhm.
the world and
Watch our
ascent.
videos, folks, to we talk about this at length.
Right, right.
Yes.
Yes, and going through the chakra gates, and she just went through the first gate. So there's still time if you wanted to
Good.
join us with this journey.
Yeah.
She just went through like 4 days ago. She went through the first gate. The Venus and the Moon met, and literally the Sumerians created this story of Inanna and also the Babylonians Ishtar. So the same similar story
Hmm.
describe the cycle of Venus, how Venus moves through the sky. And when she meets with the moon, and how that represents the chakras, and how she's descending and when she's in the morning sky, and how she's ascending when she's in the evening sky. And that's literally what's happening with Venus. It's just so amazing that that's what's going on. So venusalchemy.com. There's a you could just go to classes or something like that, and you can find the most recent class that's happening.
Is it
And
live? Is it a live class?
it's live. So what we do is once a month, right before the next Venus Moon conjunction, we're live. We also have some pre-recorded material on, like, say, the chakras and how to work with them and things like that. But then we focus specifically on each gate and do a ceremonial thing with each
For
gate
19 months.
for 19 months. Yeah. Well, there's 3 months, 2 to 3 months she's in the underworld. So we don't do classes, but we do 16 classes over the 19 months.
That's
16
amazing.
classes. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm gonna check
It
that out.
is so fun. And we've been doing this since 2014. So
Yeah.
we're one of the first to do it. I think we were the first to do it. So,
Wow.
and that's a whole other story. But anyway, so that's pretty cool of what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sign up
So
for that.
if you want to be a part of a great community, we have people that have been with us since 2014. They just love it so much. They keep doing
Wow.
it. And when we have new people come in all the time too. So
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm excited because I'm in some kind of Venus cycle, of course. So I definitely am excited to be involved. Oh,
yeah,
Caitlin, this was so good. I love
so
astrology
good.
with you. It's like
Always so fun, Zoe. Yeah, so fun.
our private conversations that just happen to be on the podcast. I'm taking notes, folks, just so you know. Every time I talk to Caitlin, I have a pen and paper right next to me because it's
That's
it's it's so good. So I love this conversation, and Kaylin does too. Obviously, this astrological, mystical conversation, and so. Like she said, it's important for us to remember that we're not just informed by the stars, but we too inform them with our healing, with our courage, our love.
our
And
intention and attention and our willingness to do ceremony and to show up or to have, to just be engaged. Yeah.
yeah,
And we're getting back this lost knowledge and this lost way, that it was something that was so present for our ancient cultures. And I mean, literally, this Venus cycle, this is another thing I can say about this Venus cycle, is that it's the one the Sumerians and Babylonians tracked as a culture and did the whole ceremony as a culture, the whole Inanna story. They would reenact the whole Inanna story with the one that was closest to the spring equinox. And that happened this year. It just happened. Venus rose right close to the spring equinox. I know. So it's pretty magical, pretty amazing. They also built New Grange to track the Venus cycle when she's with the sun. She'll be with the sun in December.
hmm
And Venus will rise up 20 minutes before the sun, so you don't see her.
okay.
But she's bright enough to light the passage at New Grange. It goes out, and then the sun comes up and lights the passage at New Grange. And that happens every 8 years, and that's happening this year. It's like they knew that. I read a book on this some years ago. The I can't think of the name of it now. Robert Knight and Christopher Lomas wrote this book on this, why how they were tracking the 8 year Venus cycle, and that this cycle is the one that they were tracking.
Robert Knight.
I think it's Robert Knight and Christopher Lomas, and it's the Hiram Code or the Hiram something or other. Anyway, they talk about a lot of ancient sites and how
The
they
Book
were,
of Hiram.
Book of Hiram, thank you. And that when Venus rose in the east, near the spring, northern hemisphere,
hmm
it would at Solomon's temple, it would light the passage all the way back to the Holy of Holies.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so they were tracking that at that Solomon's temple. They were tracking that.
Yeah. The Book of Hiram, Freemasonry, Venus, and the Secret Key to the Life of Jesus.
I
One.
probably, yes. It's been a while since I've read it, so I don't remember all the whole
Yeah.
title. But yeah, the main
Yeah.
thing I was geeking out
Fascinating.
on was the fact of all the things they were talking about around Venus. So
So it sounds like we need to really be paying attention to Venus. Moral of the
yes,
story is we
you
need to
can't miss
really be
her.
looking to Venus right now
Yes,
instead of
she's so
looking at
bright
all
in the
of the
morning sky, you
yeah.
cannot miss her. She is like a spotlight.
Yeah. So look to
before the sun.
her, meditate on her, run
Yes.
away from the
Ask
chaos.
for insights, guidance, support.
Maybe a Venus altar. You know,
Yes, a
remember I
Venus
had
altar.
that Venus altar for the whole year of 2023.
Yeah. Yeah, Venus altars. That's one of the things we recommend people do when
Yeah.
they take the Venus class with us and keep a Venus journal as well. Go out and see Venus at the different gates. She just went through the gate that's representative of the release of her crown chakra. And
Mm.
what that means is that she's letting go of distortions connected to her connection to the divine. So we never don't have our connection to the divine, but we can have distortions or we can have blocks or
Yes.
limitations. And
Yes.
that's the part of the story where she's letting go of those things so that she can then clean up and have a better relationship with that when she comes back out of the underworld.
Do you have any books on Venus that you've written?
No, I haven't written any,
I feel
but
like we need a book from you, Kaylin.
yeah. But if you get the whole story,
My God.
trying to think of the name. It's called Anana, Queen of Heaven and Earth. I think
Yeah.
um Wolkstein and Shepard. I don't know. I can't remember the other name, but Diane Wolkstein and somebody, Samuel Shepard, I think.
Okay.
They 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 deciphered the cuneiform texts. These are the most ancient writings we have of the story of Anana.
Mm.
So that can kind of give you a sense, but it doesn't tell you how it tracks the Venus cycle.
Uh-huh. It tells you
That's
the story, but not.
tells you the story, but
Mhm.
then we can look at how it tracks. And we've been doing this for such a long time. It's like so it so tracks
Yeah.
what's going on,
Yeah.
and you get a month at each gate.
Fascinating. That's what we
Yeah.
need, though. That's that sort of intense sort of rigor and exploration is what we need so that we can understand what's happening because again, so much has been taken from us, so much has been sort of removed. And so we really do need to like delve into this with
Yeah.
delight. Like I say
And
rigorous,
to
but I
think
mean
that a
with
whole culture would
yeah.
reenact this story
Yeah.
every 8 years as a culture when Venus was at the spring equinox, when Venus was rising as morning star at the spring equinox.
Well, that means there were celebrations that were happening. There was like a whole thing.
It was a thing. It was a big thing. Yeah. Yeah. And that got lost.
Mm. And that got lost.
Now we're getting it back.
Now we're getting it back. We're getting it back.
Yay.
Oh, this is so good. So, yeah, this is a great conversation. Go to Kaylin's website, her YouTube channel. We have lots of videos together. Yeah, so, next week we are going to be delving into something a little bit different. Before this it was Becky Crowell, and she had us up in the cosmos and down in the water. Kaylin definitely had us up in the cosmos, down in the water. And on next week's call, we are going to be talking with a healer, another friend, a co-founder of Query, which is a queer theory organization, an LGBTQ advocate for a powerful conversation about standing in your truth no matter what. And so Jeff Gherkin is going to share his journey from childhood sexual abuse, navigating religious shame and secrecy, to embracing his identity later in life through profound spiritual awakening and community advocacy. So, this is just going to be another great conversation. I'm very excited to just tap into this courageous and heartfelt conversation that we're going to have. And so, yeah, thank you all for joining us today. And again, Kaylin gave you all the information of where to find her. Of course, please like, share, and subscribe. Come to the Brink. Episodes we drop every Tuesday at 7:11 a.m. And those are our guest episodes. And then our bonus episodes are Mondays or Fridays or whenever I feel like dropping them. That's why they're bonuses. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen. And if this touched you in any way, DM me. Send me a voice note to info@imzoeflowers.com and your story might get aired And yeah, if you are grieving, find your community. There's lots of online grief circles now because, like I always say, none of us should stand on the brink alone. I
Yeah.
am Zoe Flowers, and I will see you soon. Bye.
One.